In this video, we're going to talk about everything low-mid frequencies in terms of your EQ and your mixes, some of the language around it, and some special things to look out for this specific frequency range. This area is a common culprit for muddy, unclear sounding mixes, but it is also the range where you get that low-end power. So if you're stoked for this, let's dive in. Next, let's move over to the low-mids. So from about 200 hertz to 500 hertz, and we like to call this the low-mid frequency area. So let's go ahead and give it a play and listen to what this area sounds like. So notice that when we were listening to that, we're getting a lot of the percussive elements of those chords, as well as that other piano line, a lot of the low end body of that piano sound, as well as some of the low end of that flute as well. Around the 200 hertz area is what is called mud or muddiness. And this frequency is a very common problematic area for when your mix feels like there's a blanket over the whole mix. There's just a lack of clarity. Everything feels muddy and smeared together in the low end. Most likely it's because there's too much frequency information in this area. So if your mixes feel like there's a blanket over it, they just don't sound clear, check the 200 hertz area with your snare, your bass, even your vocals, whatever instruments you're working with, and make sure that these instruments aren't masking each other in this frequency area. However, if we look at the boosting side of this area, adding warmth or weight, if we look at the language down here, is a great thing to boost if you want more thickness or weight in your guitars. However, again, be careful with this area because boosting too much weight or warmth can really reduce the clarity of like a rock guitar or even your snare sometimes, but it can add a little bit more low-end presence to stuff like vocals, piano, and guitars until it starts sounding too muffled. Let's move on to talk about the Boxy range. All right, so cuts here will actually increase the punch of your kick drums and even sometimes your toms as well. And it's because this frequency is typically what is called boxy, all right? It almost sounds like a cardboard box. It sounds reverberant in a not pleasant way. So if you cut in and around this range on something like a kick drum, it will reduce that cardboard box sound and really add more of a round, pleasant attack sound for your kick drum. This area is also very important to look at for your toms, and keep in mind that the frequency of each subsequent tom will lower in pitch the bigger the drum goes. So you might want to find the fundamental pitch of whatever tom you're working with in your mix. When we get towards the boxy range or the cheap range, it can sound like how when you clasp your hands over your mouth and your nose and your talking becomes slightly nasal. That kind of honky sound, you could describe that frequency range as when it's too much information. That wraps it up for this video, and in the next video, we're gonna go ahead and talk about the mid-range frequencies, the language around it, things to look out for. And if you haven't already, definitely check out the Audio Issues EQ. The link is in the description, and I will see you in the next video.